So I literally drove 3 minutes more up the road just to go to McDonald's at the top of Talmadge or whatever.
On top.
Yeah. And then the line was only 2 or 3 cars. I was able to pull right up and order.
I'm surprised that their milkshake machine wasn't down.
I know, right?
I was gonna record this when Matt wanted those spicy nuggets the other day. So first we tried to get the Travis Scott meal, which you can only get if you order through the app. And you can only get one because they're only $6. And it's literally just a quarter pounder with bacon. But so you couldn't get that. Then he ordered the spicy nuggets and wanted the mighty sauce, and they were out of it. Then she asked him what he wanted to drink with his meal, and he said Coke. And she's like, "We're out of Coke." And Matt's like, "What the fuck? McDonald's is out of Coke." It was just all around. It reminded me of the time you've tried to get a milkshake. You can't.
So help me understand what I'm looking at. So I have on my Discord, I see one group chat. Is there like a second group chat or something?
There's about 50 group chats.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's just pure chaos.
I have 2 computers up, and I'm not sure. I guess maybe like I would type on the one I'm talking on, but then I want to watch the debate on my other. But then that one, I don't know. I'm confused.
You can just talk to. We're all just going to be on chat, so you can just like on voice. Jason, he's in the Discord. So you can just talk.
So, is anyone on video? Am I like missing this, or is this like not a video thing?
Justin is on video, but it's not really anything that exciting. If you want to see him on video, you can go to DLive and then type in I think it's like, I don't know if it's dlive.com or whatever.
I gotcha. So we're not group video chatting.
Yeah.
So who can all hear me then?
Everybody in.
Putting more cherries in there?
No, just juice. Just the sauce. I need more sauce. I need some sauce in it. Sorry.
Yo, mask motherfuckers! Where your motherfucking masks? These bitches.
Oh my god.
I don't know why I'm so excited.
I don't know why you're so excited either.
Doc, will you please step back in the scene so I can see if they...
Because America sucks.
What the hell did I just step on?
What in my audio?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
I know I can't hear the debate. Wait a minute.
Oh, they lost all sound on C-SPAN. That's kind of normal. It'll come back.
I mean, maybe I'm going to go back to ABC.
Maybe I'm not going to use this link and watch it on someone else. I'm just going to Google Prez. Yeah, it came right up. What's this? What's this one? Here we go.
So, if you do want one, I will leave a link in the description.
Oh my god, my computers are gonna blow up right now.
Why is it only doing... 51 seconds. Matt, can you turn that video off?
The real one is on the left.
So we have no sound.
Go to ABC's.
YouTube.
Are you fucking serious?
What do you mean?
Yeah, you got it.
For 5 minutes?
I'm going to do that with the help of
These bitches and their fucking hairdos. Like, oh my god, I totally got my hair done today. No, they're not. Yes. Yes. I mean, we're already gonna have two idiots up on stage, so might as well. Oh, is the audio back? Whoa!
All right, I'm going live.
We probably are just gonna have to mute if everybody's listening to it on their own devices, or at least maybe Jason mute. That's what I'm gonna do. And then just unmute when I want to talk.
Yeah, I've got mine super low. I mean, there's nothing playing on mine, basically. I literally have mine on a whisper so I can just hear it in the background. That's about it. This is a thing there in Cleveland. Why are we not up there?
No, thank you.
They're 30 minutes away from us.
Hello, sir. I'm on. I went to the ABC YouTube. Where's Mark,
Yeah.
by the way?
Same here. ABC's working.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's Mark?
Good
Hello,
question.
good people. It's probably my English mate. Was my DM not clear? If I remember right, I said you guys, there's nobody else I'd rather watch it with.
Oh, thank you.
Oh no, mate. Yeah, I'm knackered, but fuck, dude, this is like the show of a lifetime, right?
Oh, it's gonna be a fucking shit show.
I hope so.
I can't fucking wait.
Oh, Roger Dodger, 2 seconds.
Hey Doc, do you want me to screen share so you can pop what video we got? Oh,
How many fresh memes are going to come out tonight?
There's an army of meme lords sat with cans of gamer fuel with their fingers poised
you know how
over
to
their
cut the
keyboards
window
right now.
down, right?
You're super quiet, Ollie.
Okay, because when I screen share, you're going to see my whole OBS. I'm putting it on 60. Is that good with you? Okay.
Just type in ABC.
I just screen share, so I'll grab one.
Education campus of Case Western Reserve University
Good
in
evening.
Cleveland
From the
Clinic.
Health
Here we go,
Education
boys.
I'm
Campus
Chris Wallace of
Case
Fox
Western
News,
Reserve
and I welcome
University
you to the
in
first.
Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The Commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments, with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics, and the questions in each
All right,
topic,
check, check, check.
I can assure you, none of the
Is that any
questions
better?
have been shared
All
I
right,
wish
Sam.
I could web
for
source.
the two candidates.
Thanks, though.
This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly,
Please tell me you have the drinking game
can
up.
focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now.
Which
We welcome
which
the
version are we
Republican
using? Because
nominee,
one of them.
President Trump,
I made
and the
one.
Democratic nominee,
Right.
President Biden.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
How you doing, man?
Uh-oh.
Gentlemen,
Can you hear me?
A lot of people have been waiting for this night.
Looks
so
like
let's get going.
everything
Our
freaked
first
out
subject
for a
is the
second.
Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy.
Did we finish the bottle if one of them has a stroke? Or
Yeah.
Teddy melts down?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call.
He said
an
one.
abuse
Is
of
that
power.
close
My
enough to
first
winning?
question to both
I'm
of
taking
you
a drink.
is, why are you right in the argument
Someone's
you make
keen.
and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have
This is annoying.
consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, good in every way. In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time.
Hey Doc, pop in Fresh Bear in chat is right.
I have a lot
We
of time
could
after the election, as you know.
we could cope with a little
So I
bit more
think
debate
that,
volume.
she will be
I think.
outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court.
Something's
Really
going
feel
on
that.
with my
We
window
have a professor at
capture.
Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear
He'd like to
wants
sniff
get
her
rid of the
hair.
Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that. He ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court, and the justice, and I have nothing. I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person, but she's written before she went on the bench, which was her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not
Give him
constitutional.
time.
The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what
Behaving
happens?
himself so far.
Women's
It won't
rights have
last.
fundamentally changed. Once again, A woman could be held for more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They're able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very happy with.
That's why we're drinking.
Well, you're certainly going to socialism.
Exactly.
We're now
You guys
into,
don't have any other
we're
choice.
now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
White.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won, we're saying that Biden wanted to allow.
Does
people to have
Obamacare count as Obama?
insurance still.
It does, right?
They can. They do.
You say it
They
does,
will.
so I
They
say
might.
take a
It's
drink.
not what you've
Drink.
said, and it's not what
That
your
is-
party has said.
that is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your
That
party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
And
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe.
Was he
You know
wrong
that.
on those
I am the
numbers?
Democratic
7
Party
million
right now.
people?
The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I,
Because if he was,
in
take a
fact,
drink.
approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal.
God, here we go.
The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died.
Trump
in his
said, China,
watch,
take a drink.
how many of those? And
I don't have enough alcohol for this. Dear
There's
Lord.
7 million people that contracted COVID.
I'm just going
What
to
does it
shout
mean
him out.
for them going forward if you strike down the
Thanks, Joe.
Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing conditions?
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
Much later.
Mr. President.
You're talking about 2 million.
China,
President,
drink.
Moderator.
Shit,
We're going to
I'm
talk
going to run
about
out
COVID in
real
the
quick.
next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is all
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And
just
you don't
be quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot.
Biden can't get a word in
We got a
edgeways.
lot
We're
of
5
time.
minutes in.
On health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you an
rid of
opp-
the
I'm gonna-
individual
when I finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse me.
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That
big
is not a
chunk of
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was
That-
the
I-
worst
I
part of
didn't ask,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part
me.
of Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we
to-
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer
Go
it.
ahead.
Sir?
You,
What
in the
was
course
your
of these
plan,
4 years, have
Donald?
never
What
come
was
up
the
with a
plan? You've had 4
comprehensive
years.
plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something.
Insulin has
There's
destroyed
nothing
families,
symbolic.
guys.
I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
about
All of the
pre-existing
things that we've done,
He has not cut
insulin.
health
I'll give
care.
you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families.
80% if he
destroying
pulls
people
that off,
because
fair play.
I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs that what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because
When in
they
fact-
pay
The
just a
best
tiny
drugs.
As I
fraction.
say,
of
this
what
is
we do.
open discussion.
No,
Let
but
me
this
ask
is
you about,
big. This
you'll
is
be
big
happy,
stuff.
sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare. And
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that
Hi,
that is going
JB.
to end private insurance.
Your
and it
audio's
will-
coming through your mic, mate, just a little bit.
The question. It will
Not what your
end.
party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of
Yeah,
health
it
care.
It does
causes a
not.
lot of
It's only
echo.
for those people who are so poor
That's
they
sound, mate,
qualify
sound.
for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor
Matt left to go get
Medicaid.
his friend
Anyone who
server.
qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option.
Went to get a fresh
Number
bottle
one.
of
Joe, you
whiskey.
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie
Number-
Sanders, who's
I
far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
When
we
you-
call it,
when
and that
manifest-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going to
didn't
listen to
agree?
him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm
Not by
here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left
Well,
2
I
days
tell
early.
you-
You would have lost every
All
prize
he knows how to do
except
is
for
hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very
Yeah,
lucky. I'm going
ho.
to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not
This
here
is
to call
the
out his
shit
lies.
show.
Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree-
want to
Hey,
make
wait,
sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the wrong guy at the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders
Shots
to the
fired.
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let
Now
him-
you're disavowing it.
There is no manifesto. Number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Medicare.
Do you
Mr.
have any
President.
Socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President.
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care because he in fact
I was
already
watching a different
has
stream on
cost
his
10
computer,
million
and I think
people
it's
the
like
health
ahead of
care
mine, and
that they
he
had
keeps
from
laughing,
employers
and
because
it's
of his
ruining it for
recession.
me.
Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye
I
and
know
say
that
that's
there's
what he wants to
16,000
do.
people watching
Take
Nick
it
Fuentes
away.
right now on
Give
D-Live.
better health care at a much lower
It's
price.
just a
because
rage
Obamacare
fest.
He
is
doesn't know
no
how.
good.
It's
he
just a
doesn't know how
waterfall
to
of
do that.
rage.
He has never
Oh,
offered
sure.
a
Fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has
He's got
never
31,000
given a
people
single
watching
but
him
probably
right now
doesn't.
on D-Live.
Obamacare
Gentlemen, you
is
realize
no
that you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time.
and it's too expensive.
Let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known for.
just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive,
I got you.
premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's
So
what his people
we
said.
do want to
No,
get
no,
rid of it.
but it's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I have
that's
to
cheaper
give
and
you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Sends,
Please.
he sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right,
He's
I
against
have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the
He
filibuster
said, "Ma'am." He
or
said, "Ma'am."
packing the
Close
court?
enough.
Whatever
Take a
position I
drink.
take on this, that'll
Oh,
become
God.
the issue. The issue is the American people should
bugger, I'm
speak.
out.
You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
Are you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know.
He doesn't
you're a
want to-
Is it
senator.
me,
I'm not
or
gonna answer
is
the
number
question.
one Biden holding it together better than you thought so far? But
He
Trump's
really
still
is.
bossing it.
Radical
Trump is
left.
absolutely
You
bossing
shut
it.
up, man.
Listen, who is on your list,
It's
Joe?
still early.
Who's on your
so-
list?
Right, gentlemen, I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
unprecedented.
We have
I'm not
ended,
gonna give a list.
we have ended
We gotta
this
go
segment.
upstairs.
We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject, so let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even
Serious talk,
years
boys.
before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of
Is that
you
number
is
right?
based on what you have said
200,000
and done
dead.
so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021. Why should the American
a drink
people
anyways.
trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out
Sir,
back
it's his
in
2
March
minutes.
exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to you.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia.
China,
You don't know how
drink.
many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's
And
a
again.
racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have
unrelated.
closed
You
our
said
country.
the
Wait a
word.
minute.
Just 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr.
I'll
Fauci
refresh.
said President Trump
No,
would
it's
save
probably just 'cause
thousands
you're
of
in the
lives.
UK.
Many of you Democrat governors said President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not
When he
be
says fake
necessarily
news,
on my
which he's
side
gonna say,
said
take a
that.
drink.
President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns, we got the masks, we made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press, they give me bad press, because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've
Fake
gotten used
news.
to it.
Dear Lord.
I'll tell you, Joe, you
We're gonna
could
be
never
ruined
have
at the end
done
of this
job that
segment.
We did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in
90
swine
minutes, an hour and
flu.
a half.
H1N1,
So,
you
we got
were a
an hour.
disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a
14,000
Gonna be
disaster.
rats.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic
Sir,
recession.
you made a
There was,
far
there
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease,
you made
by
a
the way.
point. Let him
And
answer.
there was no one, we didn't shut down the economy.
I'm a little
This
concerned
is
where
his
that
economy.
Mark
It's
didn't,
being- he shut
where
down.
he
The
must have
reason it's
fallen
shut
asleep.
down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And,
You would have been
and by the way,
months late.
your own,
You were
his
months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people
I
between
just
now and
keep
the end of the
laughing
year.
at Trump's
And he held up. He said, if we
motions and
just wear a
movements,
mask, we
and
can save
it's just
half
too much
those
for me.
numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine. We're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't.
I feel like
What we
if
trust
they're
is the
both on
scientists.
something,
We trust
Trump's
Dr.
on an
Fauci.
upper
Johnson,
and
Pfizer.
Biden's on a downer.
Okay,
By the way,
gentlemen,
and
Yeah,
let me move on
exactly.
to
Biden's on a lot of
questions
stuff.
about the future because you both have touched on
He's
one
on
of
the magic pills
two
so
of the
that he doesn't
questions I'm going to
die.
ask.
He took his, well,
focusing
we
on
used
the
to tell
future
my
first,
grandma
President Trump,
her thinking
you
pill.
have repeatedly
My grandma had
either
dementia. He's on
contradicted
his
or been
thinking
at
pill.
odds with some of your government's
He's doing
own
good.
scientists.
He
The
really
week
is.
Before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those are your two words. But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility
How much,
that we'll
Donald?
have
Oh, well,
the
very-
answer before
very much a
November
lot.
1st. It could
I'm
also be
talking about
after
when it's
that.
generally available. not when it
Well,
will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This is
delivering
the
the
same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
and you
him.
know that.
I-
That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up, though.
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the
Joe
public
sounds
health
so
experts, quote,
plaintive.
will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure. and
Joe don't like
disagrees
the
with
heat, does
his
he?
own scientists.
But you're saying you
Everybody
can't, or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying
no,
you can't trust the scientists.
What?
No, you can trust the scientists. She didn't
Yeah,
say
he
that. You
went
can
jumping
trust
She
his
said
friends'
the public
Discord.
health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be
Yes,
suppressed.
well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in
by
charge.
the way,
They will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record
Oh
as
my
saying it.
God.
He panicked or
feel
he
like
just
I'm
looked at the
delayed
stock
with you
market.
guys,
One of the
but
two.
holy
Because
shit.
guess what? A lot of people died. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
Mr. President,
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years, you've done nothing.
Well, let's have this debate.
And if you would have had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had
Putting him in his
charge
place.
of what I was
Whoa.
put through. I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
and
he's
it's
we're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Looking forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
The-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi. And Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the
Okay.
Senate.
Let
And he sits on his golf course. And well, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably
All right,
play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country. And I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
get-
a great
he just
thing by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to
thing.
another
I've
subject.
got to
But
respond.
those,
I- I
but
wanna
those
move-
states,
gentlemen, I
those
wanna move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
gotta
now.
now. respond to that.
Wants to
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have
masks?
to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say
Vice
this.
President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open.
Mask shaming should have been a
Provided
drinking
money-
category.
But I was asking you
No,
about that.
I
It totally should have
Masks,
been.
masks
That
make a
would've
big
been
good.
difference. His own,
See, now
even
Joe's
CDC
starting to
said if
show
we
up.
just
The
wore
drugs are
masks
wearing
between
off.
now, if everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've also
And
said
no serious person said the opposite. No
Well,
serious.
all right, I wanna ask
Dr.
you-
Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He did
opposite.
not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we got a
Said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned.
That's true.
President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with.
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case,
I should have
why
also
you
put the
holding
word
the big rallies?
tremendous
Why
in,
you
and
not?
I'm pissed
You
that
go
I
first, sir.
forgot.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
and
not
hangars,
worried
and
about
we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours' notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
That's it.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no
or
negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've
Come
had
on.
no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000
All right. Do you
people
want
at
to
any of these rallies.
just
Yes.
quickly finish up because
But
I
the
want to move on to
rioters
our
are
next.
Yes, I
Okay.
would. He's been totally
Yeah, it's funny
irresponsible
that.
the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the
I'm hoping they're
crowds,
gonna bring
you would
that
have done
up.
the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to
Nobody
the
cares.
gentlemen? Can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster.
Why did he all
than
of a sudden get a
expected from the
British
shutdown
accent?
Much
this-
faster.
in the second
Economy.
quarter. The unemployment rate fell to 8.
I feel like the drugs are wearing off for Biden.
The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had
brain is
expected.
melting.
President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
Stock markets in a
We built
V-shaped
the greatest
recovery.
economy in
Nobody
history. We
else is.
closed it down because of the
not sure
China
what the
plague. When the
K-shape
plague
means.
came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put
China,
back into the
drink.
workforce.
Yeah.
That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's
Why
after
does
the
Trump
election.
act like
They think
Democrat-run
they're hurting
states have got
us
nothing to
by
do with
keeping
him when
them
he's the
closed.
president
They're
of your
hurting people.
country?
People
I know,
what
I don't
to do.
understand
They
either.
can social
Yeah,
I don't get
distance.
that.
They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up.
We are
When you
gonna
look
all
at
end up like
North
Biden after we're
Carolina,
done
when you
watching
look-
this
and
debate.
These governors are under siege. Pennsylvania,
friend just texted me
Michigan,
and
and
said,
a couple of others. We got to open these states up.
what
It's
did-
not
she
fair.
said,
You're talking about almost it's like
does
being in
the
prison.
China plague
And you look
count
at
as
what's
China
going on
virus?
with divorce. Look at what's going
And
on
I
with
said, anytime he
alcoholism
says
and
China,
drugs.
take
it's
a drink.
very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton, Claymont, and all the small towns,
Yeah, he's
and
struggling.
working-class towns in America.
Isn't Biden a millionaire as well?
This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's just, yeah, I
Look,
understand, you've
the
agreed
light's
to the
messing
2
with his
minutes, so
eyes.
please
They're
let him have it.
Do I
squinting.
get my time
Watch
back?
how he smacks
The
his
fact
lips.
is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first
I think
president
he's
of the
just
United
getting
States
flustered
to leave
because
office.
he can't say
I
what
mean,
he's going
fewer
to say, and
jobs
people
for
that
his
have like
administration
cognitive
than when he
issues
became
when they
president.
can't
Fewer
get out
jobs
what they want to
than when
say,
he
it
became
turns
president. First one in
into
American history.
word
Secondly,
jargon.
the people who have lost their jobs
I don't know how
are
they
those
don't
people who
cuss.
have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives,
You'd be
those
tempted
people
though,
who have
wouldn't
been
you,
out there
Mark?
dying, people
Fuck
who
you,
are putting
buddy.
themselves in a way to make sure
Nah, I
that we
would
could
be.
all try to make it. And the
Fuck
idea that
off,
he
let
is
me talk.
insisting that we go forward and
Right,
open
listen
when
here,
you have
Buck Fiden.
almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy
So do we
until
open
you
it or we
fix the
don't open
COVID
it,
crisis.
Joe?
And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't
Watch your head,
schools
Mark.
open?
Watch your-
Because
oh, we
it
almost
costs a
got you.
lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency.
Yeah,
Not a
she
national
mash.
emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right, your time is up, sir. We are going to get to,
I
we're
have
going
to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools
like it
open.
was, like,
I'm the
last
one that
year,
brought back
but then
football. By the
also,
way, I
like,
brought
10
back
years ago.
Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
All right,
people of
let's-
Ohio are very proud of me. And you know
We're
how
going
I
to get
found
back,
out? When he took
gentlemen,
a phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward.
So what
in a
did you do
moment.
during
But first,
COVID? I brought
Mr.
back
President,
football.
As you well know, there's a new report that in
the one that
2016, the
brought
year
back
you were elected
football.
president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions
Tax
of
time,
dollars
boys and
in
girls.
taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you,
Oh, yeah, you were
there was a
asking
story
us
in one
the
of the
other day,
papers.
Ollie.
What's your tax
I paid
returns?
$38 million one year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
one year.
returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to do, go to the Board of Elections.
It's a
There's
complicated
118-page or so
subject, I
report
guess.
that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and we have a very, I built a
Sir,
great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you-
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand
return.
all of
But-
that.
but let me-
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to
He
see
paid
it.
at
But let
least
me just tell you,
$750.
Chris, let me just tell you something that
750
it
was
the
his
tax
tax.
laws. I
Was
don't want
his
to pay tax. Before
tax
I came
liability.
Here, I was a private developer.
Well,
I was a
they-
private business people.
That's how they
Like
worded
every
it.
other
Like
private
he at
person,
least
unless
paid
they're stupid,
$750. Of
they
course,
go
No
he
through
did.
offense, guys.
the law,
I was in
and that's what it
Warwickshire
is.
in 2016.
He passed
I
a
think I
tax
paid
bill
more in federal
that
income
gave us
tax
all
than
these
Trump
No, no,
did that year.
he
for
paid a lot more than
depreciation and
750.
for,
Like, if
tax
you read the
credits,
New York
we
Times
build the
paper,
building
they
and we
even
get tax
they even
credits like
admit
the
it
hotel
inside the paper.
On Pennsylvania Avenue, you get a
Okay.
massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration.
Wasn't a lot of
if
that
you can believe
employee
that.
tax, you know,
Well, the man
payroll
got
tax
fired
and
No,
however
right
it
after
works
that
over
happened,
there?
but
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take
If he's
advantage
paying
of the tax
millions,
code.
that's
why
more
I'm gonna
than a
eliminate
teacher.
the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in
Here's the other
people
thing.
who,
If
in
he
fact,
figured out how not
need
to,
the help.
if he only paid
People out there need
$750 in
help. But why
taxes
didn't
with
you
all
do it
he
over
made,
the last
I want to know how to
25
do
years?
that.
Because you
Why
weren't
didn't
president.
you do it?
Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
the way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing, including
That
fixing
is-
the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of
We're
your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you
Military is
about your
economy.
plans going forward, because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion
With
a
ties
year on
with
everything
China
from
wants to
ships
say buy
to
America.
steel
Really?
to buildings and the like. And under my proposal,
that
we're going to
shit.
make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when
dollars.
you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
That's right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done.
The
And
saying
you know what
19 when he
happened?
means
Our
91
economy
count
boomed
is
like it's
misusing
never
a
been.
word.
Economy is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Yes.
Blasted and drunk.
Mr.
Yeah, all
President,
right,
let me
drink.
pick up on that. You would continue your free market
That was a
approach,
whole
lower taxes,
jumble right there,
more
so that
deregulation,
counts.
correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in
If I leave it
Obama's
unmuted,
final
can
3
you guys hear
years
me?
as president, more jobs
Yeah, I can hear
were
your TV.
created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest
really should have
economic
added you've
recovery
never
since
seen, and then
1929.
him
Let me tell you
doing the
about stock
OK
market.
symbol.
When the stock market
Why
goes
the
up, that
fuck
means
did I
jobs.
not
It also means
research this
401ks.
more?
If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here.
My take
will
so
leave.
far,
And
Trump's
plenty of companies
just
that are
doing what
already
Trump
here, they'll
does,
leave
but he's
for
doing
other
it really
places.
fucking well.
They
man.
will leave, and you will have a
Can argue
depression
that.
the likes of which
He's
you've
good
never
at
seen.
that.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession
He is good at
short
that.
of a
I will
depression
give
in
him
American
that.
history. I was asked to bring it back.
Joe
We
doesn't
were
like
able
to
to
be
have an
interrupted.
economic
He's like
recovery
me.
that
He
created the
just
jobs you're
becomes
talking
a
about.
bumbling
We
idiot
handed him
because
a
he lost
booming
his train of
economy.
thought.
He blew it.
It wasn't
He blew
booming.
it.
Which could be dementia.
blew
It could also just
booming.
be
It was the
character
weakest
trait.
Well,
recovery
sir, is it
since
fair to wait? Is it fair to
1929.
say he blew it when, in
When
fact, there was
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because
Yeah,
what
we've
he
all
did,
done that,
even
right?
before COVID,
Spaghetti in your
manufacturing
pockets.
went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you're on number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring
We
back
didn't make cars
manufacturing.
in Ohio.
I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not bring it.
standard fare.
I'm the guy
He
that brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to
Do
bring
we?
back
Do we make
Chrysler and
cars
General
here?
Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone.
Biden
He
needs
blew
to
it.
hit him on coal.
And in fact, they're going
Ohio
Coal
had
is a
the
big thing
best
for
year
Trump, and
it's ever
he's-
had last year.
it's gone backwards
Michigan
on
had
that.
the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car
That
companies
No,
came in from Germany, from
not-
Japan,
not-
went to Michigan.
Sorry,
went
I'm
to
so
Ohio.
ahead of you
And they
guys.
didn't
Vice,
come
wait,
in
wait,
from
wait,
Japan.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take
Do I
a
need
look
to
at what he's
refresh
actually
again?
done.
Hang on.
He's done very
No,
little. His trade
it's-
deals are the
just
same
take my
way.
favorite
He talks
slogan,
about these
text
great
for
trade
free.
deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch,
All
down
right, gentlemen,
18%.
in-
China ate your lunch, Joe, and no
but-
wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is
Simply
it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
is
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that
deserve
is true.
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really?
been
He didn't
totally
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please. You've asked
totally
a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
it is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But, Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's- it
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
issue. Let the
been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no job?
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
and
Mr.
the only guy
President,
that
let
did
him
some-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact,
Mr.
even the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this,
under-
Joe.
under
No, no,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to you.
Does that count as fake
got
media?
$3.5
He
million
Get into the
testified,
adjudicator on that one.
he testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well. I did
really?
it
I'd like to know
honorably.
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some people don't do a
Well,
good
here's
job.
the-
With you,
Go
they
ahead.
said-
You get
here's the
the, wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say, Joe.
No. I'm Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want
I
to
like
do
Biden's
that.
tie.
I mean, his family we could
I
talk about
could
all
wear
night.
that
His
tonight.
family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my family
already
lost
wrote.
a fortune by
Go ahead.
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's
Every-
such a.
they're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's such
President.
a
Every
great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
President.
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million
He
for
doesn't.
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about
My
what
family,
you
your
need.
family, all the
you, the
families.
American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about
you
here.
should
All right,
Take
that's
the
the, end
money.
of that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No, I-
He
I-
stood
good.
up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
That
get rid of
is
the troops.
you know what, you're-
absolutely
wait,
not
stop.
You're
true.
on tape doing it.
You're going to
You're on
have
tape.
True.
gentlemen.
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
I
Can
tape.
I be honest?
Why
Yeah,
should I
right.
be
Keep
giving
it
them
going, mate.
two of you? So here's the deal.
good point.
Great.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more
Well,
interrupting
that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than.
plenty.
No, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you
That's just the
rather than your
talking point.
opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that.
It is whose
now,
sir.
Second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing.
Misspoke.
Look, the
Drink.
fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at
Like
what he
couple
did.
times.
And what he did has been disastrous for the
Yeah, I'm trying to go easy.
So,
President
Small
Trump, you have
sips.
2 minutes. Why should
Baby sips.
Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill,
He
1994.
needs to address BLM
where he called
though,
them
because Trump's just going to
super
smack him
predators,
so hard with
African-Americans,
it
super
if he doesn't.
predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten
Yeah.
it, Joe.
No, sir. It's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African-American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls,
You're
you're
super
doing better than any
predator.
Republican has done in a long time because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day, and they put up their hands, and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities
Trump
and just
send a
about
goon
the
squad
top 40
into
cities are run by Democrats and in many
And then they left
cases
a month
radical
later.
left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order.
Trump's
And I'll tell you what,
threatened a
the
lot of
people
people
of this
with a lot of
country
violence.
want
So,
and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency
wait until he can
in
get
when
another
these
bump.
things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way,
We only have
violence
30
in
minutes
response
left.
is
I got a
never
lot to go
appropriate.
to
Never
cover.
appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never
Has
appropriate.
anybody really landed a blow yet, do you think?
When they run through the middle of a
President
town
Trump-
and burn down your
President Trump,
stores and kill people all
President
over
Trump,
the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful.
protest.
President
No,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not, but
asking-
you say it is.
I did
President
not
Trump,
say
I'd like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution
honest.
that was taking place
So,
in our
so Mark, since we're
military,
on the
in
president's
our
shoulder, are you the
schools,
devil or am
all
I
over the
devil?
place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else,
is radical,
and he would know.
What is
Oh,
radical
it's so
about
in his
racial
pocket.
sensitivity?
Yeah, I got it in
you
his
were
pocket,
a
you're right.
certain person. You
Wait,
had
can I
no
see Mark's
status in life.
screen?
It was sort
Oh,
of a
I see.
reversal. And if you look at the people,
Just
we
call
would
it
pay
thing.
people hundreds
Yeah.
of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas, and really they
guys
were
are, like-
teaching people to hate our country.
I'm surprised
and I'm not
he's
going to
on
do that. I'm
Joe
not going to allow
Biden's
that to
side over
happen.
there.
We have to go
The
back
hell?
to the core values of this country.
You're
They were
Trump
teaching
traitor.
people.
Bill over there on the
our
radical
country is
left.
a horrible
Yeah.
place. It's a racist place,
Man,
and they were teaching people to hate our
Mark's-
country. And I'm not going to
Mark's
allow
a
that to
radical
happen.
lefty.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's
Oh,
the
you-
racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know. They don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem.
Do they though,
It's a
Joe?
little bit like how
Have we not all had
this
enough of
guy
that?
and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism
Vice
in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson. You look at you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is
is
that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in favor of law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law and
He
order.
loses
Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his
17,
watch.
15,
He-
13, 12,
he-
12, 12,
All right,
12%,
we're now-
12%.
you're-
President of
Mr.
the
Say it,
United
bitch.
States
Say
of
it.
America.
Go on.
President,
Every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And the
we're now going to
places
talk
we-
about law and order.
Places we had trouble
17,
with
15, I'm
Democratic-run
drinking.
cities.
That's exactly my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican
He doesn't give a
cities
fuck.
like Tulsa
That's his
and
strength.
Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. crime. It
Republican
is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it,
If someone in
we would
chat
have-
says, Obama, do we
our
drink?
suburbs
No
would
way.
be gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone. And you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a
Alright,
suburb
fine.
unless he took a wrong
But it
turn.
really
Oh,
bothers me.
suburbs.
He
It
would
should.
not. I was
Wait,
raised.
He's
Wait a
saying
minute.
these
was
things like
raised in the
Chicago and New
suburbs.
York
This is
aren't
not
parts of the
1950.
country that he
All
runs.
these dog whistles and
I don't
racism
get it.
don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal
Yeah, what
with
does it
the
mean?
problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevent-
talking about,
That's-
Chris. That's
well,
not what
that-
they're talking about.
that's
He's talking about
exactly-
defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Would you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
All right.
about it.
All right.
Name
Folks,
one law enforcement group that came out and
I think,
supported
gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't
role,
think there are any.
and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned
We're not
into
peaceful.
riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence? in
Oh, you
Portland?
guys are so far ahead
I
of
don't
me.
hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it
cheaper
clear in my
Euro
public
internet.
statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never
prosecuted.
called for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call
Because
it, bring in
they-
the National Guard and knock
Well,
off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
here's the
But
thing.
No,
I
that-
sent
sir,
in
no,
the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer
No,
of the
that-
young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3
Mr.
days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
please
had to send
interrupt
in
and-
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They
Trump,
took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that.
I don't-
And so here's the
All right.
But here's the point.
Go
The
ahead,
point
sir.
is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't
I don't
want to
know him.
calm
I never
things
met
down.
him.
Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to button up this segment. I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized.
I have to answer his statement.
No, you have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
you have
just 1
No,
second.
you've been talking
You
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
sir.
I would love to end it, and
You
we
know, if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats.
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send in
I'm-
the National Guard. It would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the
He
National
really wants to
Guard.
tell
You
Donald
have
to shut the fuck
repeatedly
up.
criticized the
too
vice
polite.
president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you
If
saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
Yeah,
supremacists
that's
and
absolutely
right
right.
wing
We watched what
Proud
happened in
Boys
Kenosha.
and right wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is
the
a
threat
left-wing
of
Go ahead,
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what
Oh, really?
his
It's an idea.
His
Okay.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well,
we're
then
gonna,
you know what?
No,
He's
no,
wrong.
we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're
Everybody
moving.
gives
When a
you
bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head, that's not
administration.
an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa-
your
Don't defend
administration tells
Antifa,
you
you
the truth
numpty.
has a
Oh,
bad
you
idea.
do.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas that are
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump
and
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful
records.
with them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you,
You mean
president
I'm gonna ask
over your
Trump
opponent?
and
in
or
this
I'm gonna ask
segment?
Biden and
President
Trump's
Trump,
gonna
you go
answer for
first, 2
Biden.
minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges, it's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession with regard to being weaker. The fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got
And-
$3.5 million.
And by the way, my son.
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
He's not having it. He's just making himself the
All right.
boss of the entire
So,
show.
Thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter
you know Bo.
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
for
wasn't dishonorably
cocaine
discharged.
use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son-
fortune.
My son,
Right now,
he didn't have
Trump
a
is
job.
my
shitting
son,
on
like a lot of people,
the former
like
vice
a lot of
president's
people you know
son.
at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why
I'm
was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right.
But he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right.
tens of millions
He was
of
given
dollars. That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's
dollars.
been totally
President Trump,
discredited.
you've already been
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make
I know,
a
but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay,
from
right.
the
Let's
mayor
talk
of
about-
Moscow,
Let's talk
That is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get it?
discredited.
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change? And what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because
true.
our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution,
I haven't seen the new Michael
greenhouse
Moore
gas
yet.
emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain
thanks,
their
Bars. I'll watch
forests.
it.
They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country, It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be
fuck
that
is
problem. I
he's
spoke with the
making out like
governor
we all
about
live
it. I'm
in the
getting along
trees.
very well with the governor. But I said, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
Forests.
That's burning down because of a lack of
But,
management.
sir, if you believe in the
else?
science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least
He relaxed
double
fuel
and triple
economy
the
standards
number of
because
cars purchased. We have the
car
old
companies
slugs
were
out there that are 10,
faking them
12 years
anyway.
old.
It
If
didn't
you
matter.
did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No, but you
ignored
would take
your
a lot of cars
rollback.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And, and I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building.
Saying
in the
number
future.
one twice.
We're going to
count.
build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for
feel like it
the
does.
ability us to take 4 million buildings
Number one is
and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying
They
jobs.
just kicked the,
not $15 an hour.
They just kicked the
but
can five
prevailing wage
years down the
by
road. It's
having
now
a new
2035.
infrastructure that in fact is green.
Yeah.
And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will
We all
join
grew
the
up
Paris
learning
Accord
about
because
peak
with us
oil,
out of
right?
it, look what's
And that
happening.
was
It's
meant to happen
all
15
falling
years ago.
apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead
Not
of
true.
doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop.
The rainforest absorbs more carbon than any place in the United
States. You're going to have significant economic
Grasslands
consequences.
What about the argument that
Grasslands are actually a better
that
carbon
you have to
sink than
balance
a rainforest?
environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line.
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's
He's
the deal.
talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip
Biden
down
plan.
Go for a
buildings
minute and then you can go.
and rebuild the building.
No,
It's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that
ridiculous.
is not
where
the case.
airplanes are out of
Wait a minute,
business,
That's it.
where two-car systems are out, where they
Not
want
true.
to take out the cows too.
Not
That's not
true.
true either, right?
Not
this is
true.
this is a 100
Simply-
trillion.
look,
That's more money than our
that is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if we're
not
going.
the case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because I
country.
actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes: the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100
They-
trillion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives to people for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's
at all.
he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up a
we
lot of things.
we are going to be in a position where we can create
Nuke the storm.
hard
Nuke the
good
storm.
jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now.
No, they had no
Billions of
proof.
dollars
They had no
on
proof that he
floods,
said it. It was an
hurricanes,
intern that said they
rising
heard him say
seas.
it.
We're in real trouble. Look what's happening just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
China
You want to
Deal
rebuild
Stranger
every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to rebuild every.
If he knew anything
wait, no, no,
about,
wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen,
He
anything
made a
about,
statement
Gentlemen.
about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military.
Mr.
We've had
Vice
9
President.
CPJs,
I-
not even
And
one.
he said it on
Wait,
tape. He
Mr.
said,
Mr.
"Stupid
Please,
bastards." He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that.
play
to
it.
the military.
Play it.
Go ahead, Mr.
You're on
Vice
tape.
President. Answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings. was the
I'm having a
final
little
question.
trouble, I'm having a little trouble myself, but
Yeah, I'm
and
a good
about the
10,
economy
15
and about
seconds
this
behind you
question
guys.
of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your
No,
environmental
don't.
deal will do.
Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build.
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support?
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New
you
Deal.
don't? Oh, well, that's a
You
big
let-
statement.
I
Jason,
support
you having
the
fun?
That's the radical left.
I,
That's
su-
done.
I support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put
Of course I am.
Okay.
the Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment. Election integrity. As we
I'm just
meet
paying bills while
tonight,
listening to these two
millions of
clowns.
Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early.
Wait, are they
How
taxes?
confident
Because you only have to
should
pay
we be
$750,
that this will
right?
be a fair election? And what are you prepared
That'd be
to do
amazing. Yeah, no, definitely not
plus weeks,
taxes.
because it'll not only
That's-
be
that's all
election
good.
day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after election day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice
I'm wondering what happened to our second
Vote. You should go to iwillvote.com.
COVID check thing.
Decide how they're going to vote, when
Oh,
they're
we're probably
going to
getting
vote,
it in
and what
about
means by which they're going
in
to
about
vote.
a month.
His own
I just read about it
Homeland
today.
Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you
Only
from
you
being
can
able
prevent
to determine
forest
the
fires.
outcome of this election.
Only you.
And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? Or you get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it, too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory.
I know for a fact
Okay.
that
We
what
have
Trump
major
is saying
states
about
with that.
Sir,
All
election
run by
fraud
Democrats.
is bullshit.
All run by
You're-
Democrats.
I kind
It's
of
President
believe
Trump,
what he's
to
saying right now.
You're going to be able to continue.
Oh,
So-
they've been
charging
finding
for
ballots
months that
everywhere.
Mail-in balloting is going to be a
I will say
disaster.
that-
You said
that,
it's
so, like,
rigged.
I got
said
my
it's going to lead
official-
to fraud.
like,
but
my
in
official,
2018, in the last midterm election,
mail-in ballot
31 million
request
people
from the
voted
Board of
mail-in
Elections,
voting.
and then
That
there
was
has been at least
quarter,
3
more
or
than a
4,
quarter of all
like,
the voters that
everyone's
year
named
cast their
family
ballots by
that keeps
mail.
getting mailed to my
Now
house
that
are,
millions
like,
of
not
mail-in
from. I know what
ballots have
people like
gone
our
out,
county board of elections
what are you going to do about
looks
it?
like, so I
And
just ripped them
are
up.
you counting
But
on the
it
Supreme
is
Court,
causing massive
including a
confusion.
Justice Barrett,
But
to
I
settle
will
any
say
dispute?
Yeah,
it's
I
also
think I'm counting
hysterical
on them
that
to look
there
at the
were
ballots,
ads from
definitely. I
Trump
don't think, I
saying,
hope we don't need them
get your mail-in
in terms
ballot.
of the election
I did
itself.
mine.
But
Like,
for the
so
ballots, I
it's
think
weird.
so. Because
It's a really
what's
weird
happening
mixed
is
message,
incredible.
I
I
think.
just heard, I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated.
What it comes down to is,
They-
do you
they
trust
take them, we don't
your
like them,
election
we don't like
results?
them.
But
They
what are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
There
and
are
right.
millions
Yeah.
of ballots going out
What
right
you
now.
do
What are
is
you
That's
you
gonna
go
why-
and
do?
vote. You
So that
do
goes
a
back to,
solicited
do you
ballot.
trust your
That's
government?
okay.
And
No, you
everybody
go and
here
vote.
in this
Asking you
room
about the
probably
fact
can
that millions
easily
of
say
people
no.
You go and
have
vote.
Yeah, that's a
You
fair point.
go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people?
You either do, Chris, a
I mean, I trust
solicited
my Board
ballot
of
where you're sending
Elections
it
and my
in, they're sending
phone,
it back, and you're
but-
sending They have
That's
mailmen
about
with
it.
lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is
You
no,
mentioned West Virginia.
there is no
This is
evidence
not
of
going
that.
to
I don't know what
end
he was
well.
talking about. They're
No,
selling
this is
people's
not going
ballots.
to
President
end well.
Biden.
Five
West
states
Virginia,
have had
Go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is, they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in until the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he knows
You're
of the
wrong.
outcome.
You're wrong.
No, I want to continue with you on
I
this,
love
Vice
counting the
President
vote.
Biden.
Chris,
because
he's so wrong when he makes
in
a
fact,
statement
no,
like that.
excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or
We
they
haven't
missed
got a
the
Sleepy Joe
deadline.
yet.
So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court, with a Justice
I feel like
Barrett,
we might have missed
will settle
some
any
of the
dispute?
best.
I'm concerned that any court
Yeah.
can settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit.
Oh, wait,
You
it was
didn't know
listen
yet.
and look.
Someone say
God
that
damn, we missed a
this is
fair
me.
few then.
You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that
Yeah, he
you, when
probably
before the
definitely
ballot is
said
thrown
that.
out, that's sufficient to
There
be
were a
able to
lot of
count the
looks.
ballot because
Yeah.
someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you
I
have
a final-
80 million ballots
Gentlemen, I have a final
sending
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
there's
right,
been
so now-
fraud.
Mail service
deception.
delivers
Wait a minute, gentlemen, in the
185
final
million
question
pieces of
is,
mail a day.
in
million
8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking. In
a
8 states,
disgrace.
election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to
Not when
process
your mate's gutting the
ballots,
USPS.
even take them out of
no.
the envelope.
But yeah, Biden's race is run.
Until
He's-
election
he's
day.
like a
That
marathon
means
runner. He's
that
ready
it's
to vomit.
likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we find out who the
I mean, they
new
should be just
president is.
about done.
First for you, sir, finally for the vice president. I hope neither of you will
Yeah,
interrupt
like
the
Lisa
other.
just points out, with all the
Will you
technology that
urge
we're
your
in, why does it
supporters
take so long?
to stay calm during this
Yeah, it
extended
shouldn't.
period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They were called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell
what-
you
what
what,
does that
from
mean,
a
not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're gonna
tell you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to the
It means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do about that?
They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two,
Okay.
they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name
All right.
military ballots. They
You've
were
got the
military.
president of
They
the
all had
United
the name
States
Trump on
saying
them.
there
Vice
might be a
President
fraudulent
Biden,
election
Vice President
in
Biden,
your
final
country.
question for you. Will
Yeah.
you urge
In
your
6 weeks.
supporters to
That's
stay
mental.
calm while the vote is counted? And will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established.
Take
Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I
and then
asked you had an opportunity
Look
to
at
respond.
Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an honest ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The two vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris,
Kamala
will debate
Harris
at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch.
G.I. Joe.
Until then, thank you.
G.I. Joe against Tupac.
G.I. Joe.
Thank you.
Yay, the 4 people that are still awake. Oh no, everybody's like, we had to leave.
That was exactly what I was. Too badly.
I want to see what's going to happen. Trump wants to go up and say hi to somebody. Oh. Oh.
He's gonna.
They're not going to touch each other. Fine.
He might.
Oh.
Nah, COVID.
Where's Sleepy Joe's wife? Oh, they hug, and she's got a mask on. She's afraid of Joe.
He might sniff her hair.
Yeah.
She wants nothing to do with him.
I'm not watching anymore.
He won't sniff her.
Always, his wife's wearing a mask, but the bank is... Oh dear, oh dear.
You guys hear that?
What?
Yeah, if you listen. Yeah, there's somebody in the background goes, "Love you, Trump, best president of all times."
Oh my god.
And then they cut off the mic for everybody.
Yeah, boy.
That was a good time, guys.
That's not what I expected at all. I don't know about you guys.
It was fun.
I mean, that's pretty much what I expected.
Kind of what I expected.
I think that they knew that they had to keep it very, like, on point, on track, or else it would have just been, it could have gone on for 4 hours. So I think that was, like, purposely, like, okay, here's what we're going to talk about. Both campaigns approved of it. They knew ahead of time. You each get 2 minutes. If you don't, we're going to tell you to shut the fuck up.
Yes, I'm going to do fact. Give me a break.
We're going to fact check.
I'm just going to say that I think the most useful thing that was said the whole night was when they said that this was the worst presidential debate ever.
This is maybe my first one, I think.
That was it was entertaining. Like,
yeah, I enjoyed it.
I don't know what just happened.
I watched a man that's clearly beyond his capabilities get fucking owned, mate. That's what I just watched.
You just watched America. That's
America.
That's what you just watched.
Trump,
America! Fuck
Trump
yeah!
had him all up and down, man. Like that wasn't even a contest.
So, hey, Lester, who won?
Oh, Trump, without a shadow of a doubt, mate. And I'm not his biggest fan. I'll tell you that much.
Points, yeah.
But if I didn't care about politics,
tomorrow morning, and all my people will be like, "Yeah, Joe Biden won." I'll be like, "Jesus Christ."
No, mate, no.
No, they're also, man. They're where I live. It's Trump is like Satan.
No, guys, you know who won? Everyone won, because this is America, and everyone gets first prize. Everyone gets first prize.
Don't get me wrong. I'm voting for Joe Biden. I don't love him, but I'm voting for Joe Biden.
I still think you're crazy. Why would you vote for Sleepy? Why would you vote for Sleepy Joe?
I'm voting for Biden.
You could drink in the city water.
There's a really good Twitter video.
I don't drink the
going
city water.
around.
I pay for expensive water.
It's a body language analyst looking at what
Joe, I
Biden
can
did.
vote for Trump 1,000 times. Where I live, it's not going to matter. 90% will vote for Biden anyway.
What were you saying, Alistair?
It's just a video doing the rounds on Twitter. It's somebody that does body language analysis, and it's Biden and this family's child, very very young girl, and it's creepy as fuck, man. Like, it's just it bothers me that this is the best. It's not that America's like a bad place or anything, but these are the two candidates you have to choose from.
Yeah, this is the best America has to offer.
Well, no, it's because the system's so corrupt. It seems to me, from what little I know, there are so many better people that could be leading you guys, but you've got this. This is the devil's choice that you've been given, I guess.
Yeah, which I feel like has been the situation for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
we're
watching this debate about the $750 tax return thing, which they refuse to publish, so we can't fully trust it. But is that sparking the debate in that the Starbucks employee that serves you your coffee in the morning is paying more tax than a billionaire? That doesn't seem to be the case. People are either saying, well, $750 is wrong, or $750 is right because he's clever. Nobody's saying, well, hang on a minute, what about me when I earn $30,000 a year and I'm still paying more tax than...
See, the thing is, so the key word in there is tax liability, and that's where it gets really tricky.
Yeah.
Because most average person doesn't know what tax liability actually means.
I appreciate that, but I'm trying to simplify it here. I'm saying if you've got gold-plated toilet, you should be paying more in tax than somebody that serves coffee for a living. Do you know what I mean?
It's an important time to save.
Put my
With
lefty
Priceline,
hat on
you can get
for
up
a
to
second.
60%
No,
off
I agree with
amazing
you.
hotels. And when
I think the whole idea is the more money you make, the more taxes you should pay. You should pay more back into that piece of pie. And unfortunately, it's kind of the other way around, which to me is just ludicrous.
Yeah,
I disagree. I think everybody should pay. When it comes to the money that you make, there should be an agreed upon amount of money that you pay. And the end. Like,
Sure.
I don't think you should have to pay more. I mean, like, why should a rich person have to pay more than a poor person? Especially if that rich person has more say in what the government does, because, you know, so you don't, like, you know, you have the left that used to be able to say, you know, we don't want our tax dollars going to war. Well, you know what rich people can do? Rich people can make sure that their tax dollars don't go to war, because they can just find the loopholes and not pay stuff. So we should be championing the people that find ways to not give the government money, because
But it
they're
doesn't
not
work
funding the
that
war.
way.
What?
But it doesn't work that way.
Walk into?
No, it totally works that way. The left that bitches about the
What
left
the
that bitches
fuck did I just?
the
Let
left
him
that
finish.
the left that bitches about they're not wanting money. The left bitches about how the government has too much money and that their tax dollars shouldn't go towards funding war. If rich people find loopholes so they don't have to pay taxes, then they are actually doing what what the left and the poor want them to do. They're actually winning. They're not giving as much money to the government to fund the war machine.
It's a fair point.
That's a straw man.
No, it's not. It's just not sexy.
That's one facet of like what tax money is going to. It's proportion based.
The biggest thing that most lefties complain about their tax money going toward. I don't want my tax money going for war.
And
okay?
that's a problem with how tax money is allocated. That's a systemic problem.
I mean, again,
but if you are legally obligated as an American citizen to pay tax, you should be paying so at the rate that you are governed to pay.
But here's what's great. You actually aren't legally obligated to pay taxes. It's not in our Constitution. There is no written law.
But here's the thing:
The only reason Doc's logic sounds twisted is because our minds have been so fucking twisted by this system as it exists.
I mean, I'm. So here's the thing, though, is that when you say I don't have to pay taxes, I don't have that choice when I work at a company that automatically takes out the taxes for me. Therefore, I'm going to have to file a tax
So
return.
the problem
when
is
you
with
file
governance.
your W-2, you can actually write on your W-2 the right code and not pay taxes. We just don't know that right code. There's reasons there's codes when you fill out W-2s. That's the part you really have to ask questions.
There's not a code.
Yes, there is a code.
You write like 1, 0, 2,
which are codes. If you know the right number to put, they don't take out taxes. You owe them at different times. And then you choose not to pay them at that time that you owe it again. 1 or 0 is a huge difference in taxes about the amount that they take out.
Yeah, I understand that.
Listen, I'm not preaching here. Drink, by the way. I'm using a Biden phrase. I'm not preaching because my system's even worse than yours. But all I'm saying is that your Starbucks employee, and I know that's a talking point that's doing the round, but it's a fact, is still paying like $8,000 a year in tax. Something like 50% of Americans don't pay any tax at all. Fine, grand. But the average amount of income tax is something in the region of about 8 to 10K US.
Yes, there's no way that someone who's making, like, again, whatever magic number you want to call it, 70,000, 100,000, 6 figures, somewhere in there, anyone who's not paying those taxes, right, and is just doing, like, quote unquote, the right thing.
Yeah, it's
in the eyes of the IRS, they will get fucking audited if they don't pay their taxes.
It might be clever, it might be smart, but
when you have giant bubbles of floating money and you can hide revenue in various places, either overseas or you just find you have a team of people who literally just dive through the loopholes that have been placed there, and the convolution that's been put there, overly complicated tax code, to allow those fuckers to keep doing that. That is a major problem. And by brushing it off as saying, oh, he's doing the right thing, he's not paying as much for the war. Fuck that. No. That is not at all. If we don't want money going to the war, then we do elect other officials who aren't trying to push the war machine.
Out of everything, if Trump really is not paying anything in tax, that is one of the greatest things I admire him about. Anybody that figures out how not to pay taxes, that's amazing to me.
This is the problem that we have, though, Matt, because let's not forget. Remember the Panama Papers and how fuck all happened because of that, apart from the woman that broke the story got killed in a car bombing in Malta? Like, the system is what the system does, right? And we're seeing the system fuck people like me, you, and everyone else in this room on a daily basis. And if our argument is, well, they're doing the right thing, I'm not sure that gets us anywhere. That's all I'm saying. Unjust. There's no justice in that.
The problem is we have, I mean, in this country especially, we keep allowing the two quote unquote, opposing parties to put forward bullshit candidates and keep their bullshit establishment going. Like, that's what it boils down to, and it's not going to change until that sort of person isn't getting any sort of public support. But
so
everyone's
it means it's never going to change.
Yeah, I mean, that's the harsh reality, is that it's not going to change. And if it's not going to change, then we at least need to be holding these fuckers accountable if this is the system that we're putting in place. Like, people in the upper echelon of society should be paying absolutely exorbitant amounts of their income.
No, they
in
should not. They should never
into the system that they're siphoning from.
To get to that fucking point, where's the incentive to? If you ever had that, what are you gonna let happen?
What is work? What is work? Going to McDonald's, is that fucking work? Is that something someone should spend their fucking life doing? No, it's not. It's a waste of time. No one needs to be doing that, right? Like, so yeah.
Holy fucking shit! Half the people can't even speak English.
No,
really?
I agree with them. That's not work. That's not work. And I agree. And I'm of the thing. I don't think that someone that makes $100,000 should be taxed on their income. Oh wait, I don't think someone that makes $100 million on their income should be taxed for their income. Problem solved. Then you make what you want. If you run a business and you sell a product, then you can have a tax.
We don't have a societal infrastructure to support that sort of thing.
We do, because we have places like Florida, Tennessee, Nevada, and Delaware that don't take that don't take an income tax. If we've got states that figured out other ways to handle without taking an income tax.
Property taxes are ridiculous. Am I wrong?
No, property
So
taxes.
yeah, okay. So if we move to a system where the states are their own thing, the states are going to absolutely have to take more money.
Why?
How do you fund any of these programs?
Tell me what you need to fund.
You have to support the poor in a capital structure.
Need to fund. Tell me what you need to fund. Any of these programs. What do you need to fund?
Medicaid,
Medicare, welfare, food stamps.
Medicaid, Medicare can both be fixed by radically changing localized healthcare. And having price fixing and having it so that and this is anti-free market, I know, but so that some of the stuff that happens in hospitals can't happen anymore. We can't.
Yeah.
We have to stop charging $20 for an aspirin. If we readdress our healthcare systems, then a hospital will be more than happy to treat sick people, because there will be donors and there will be people with philanthropy that'll be more than happy to give their money that they're not being stolen by the government to give to that hospital to make sure sick people can have what they need.
Okay, and tax money is also not supporting schools correctly.
Tax money doesn't support schools. Are shit. Schools are the worst. Schools are the worst. So our tax money doesn't do shit.
Yeah,
Okay,
it doesn't. Yeah, but okay, it doesn't do shit because it's getting siphoned by fucking administration at every level.
By the way, I just posted, if you guys want to see, I just posted the New York Times article of how the
So yeah, if you're all for removing the capitalist part of the equation from all these things that shouldn't have capitalist parts to them, that are actually social programs, then yeah,
if
all
they're going
for
to be
it.
social programs, they need to be treated like social programs. I'm aboard with that. Yeah.
Can I just say, because nobody else has, Doc, your look tonight, on point, mate. Smart as fuck.
Thanks.
Ollie, are you like on the other side of your room?
Yeah, your mic got worse again.
He's got his working class cap on, respect, mad love, and the Nepalese hoodie. I'm a fan.
Thanks.
I have no idea what he just said.
In my dress, and you can see. And
Hey,
you can,
I got
in my
him
dress,
that hoodie.
Yeah, my sister found this hoodie for me, so it was a good find. Yep.
Good hoodie.
Yep.
I like that.
Thrift store find.
I saw a bunch of those at the beach.
No, the system needs to be changed, and the system doesn't need. We don't need overtaxation. We need to tax businesses in the way that a business does business. So because a business is going to overuse our roads, and so a business does need to make sure that business, but an individual doesn't need to pay for that road. A business does. That's one of the benefits of being a citizen, is you get access to good quality roads.
All I'm saying, from what I know, the infrastructure in the United States, same as it is here, is crumbling. And it's still fucked up that the cleaner in the billionaire's office block is paying more as a percentage of their income, because percentages are a thing, whether you like it or not, than the billionaire owner is. Like, that's wrong. If you disagree with tax, then write your congressman and then make that not be a thing.
But our crumbling infrastructure is one of the things that's actually keeping a lot of us employed by fixing.
But that's the thing that I think is stuck in your head. Like, what does being employed mean? Just like having a job that pays you money, no matter how pointless the job itself is like a human in 2020 needs to be doing. Because there's not a lot of entry level jobs anymore that are
You're talking about UBI, man, and that's a.
I am. It's a band-aid. It's a band-aid fix for capitalism, but I honestly think that's the only thing that's going to keep capitalism going.
Spicy.
Well, so the thing is.
Yeah, I don't share your hate of capitalism, and my job is extremely meaningful and it's a really good career, so I don't see it as meaningless.
Well, you're civil engineering, right?
Structural.
Structural. My bad. Yeah, that we need more people like that, man. More people doing that job.
See, the problem is that we've had somehow through the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, we've had people we've told people it's okay to make careers out of starter jobs. And Matt's correct. Like, somebody shouldn't have a career path to want to be a fry cook at McDonald's for their life. That should have never been. But because of poor tactics that happened in the last 30 years and poor things, poor education, poor social programming, poor just poor society in general, we've had people give up, and they're just saying, you know what, I'm gonna settle with my my shitty fry cook job at McDonald's, and I'm just gonna do it for the next 30 years. And I'm not ragging.
It might not be like this in everybody's family, but I can say, even in just my family, the range of IQs is so freaking wide that, like, my sister could barely hold a job at a McDonald's. Even though she could kind of do nursing, she failed at that too. She got to a certain point, but a lot of people give up easier. So I mean, there's a wide range where everybody's going to even qualify IQ-wise to do half the jobs he's talking about. So
no, but the thing is our system is failing us because there is a suitable, reliable, enjoyable job for everybody. Like, even low IQ people, there's something that they would enjoy doing that we need in society, and we just need help being able to connect them. Like, one of the things that we need to do, and this sounds horrible, but we need to get rid of this stupid fantasy of the American dream. The American dream, all the American dream used to be was you had some farmers, you had some craftsmen, you had some ranchers, and you could say, hey guys, you can do what you love. Go out there and farm, because if you fail, you're gonna still be able to eat, because you found a way to sustain your life. If you're a craftsman, even if you're a shitty craftsman, you're gonna get better with more and more practice. If you're a rancher, people are still gonna buy your meat and you're still gonna buy your food. The problem is in the last probably in the last 50 years, we started creating jobs that can easily be replaced, that are pointless, that don't relate to you functioning and being able to achieve anything of value in your life. Like, one thing that I know a lot of people are going to possibly disagree with me here, but we killed the artist. People say, oh, well, we don't need art and that kind of stuff. Bullshit. We need pretty things.
Henry Miller noticed that in 1920. He said America kills all its artists.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to get to.
And we want. Go ahead, sorry, bro.
All of these quote-unquote low IQ people, I mean, like, as a teacher, an educator, I mean, yeah, there are people who aren't very left-brained at all. They will probably never grasp, high school, college level math, or whatever bridges that they are required to connect well enough to get a 4-year degree or better. But how many of those people are just trying to do that because it's the only path they see? Because you can't, like, they might be the next virtuosic musician, or just, like, I don't know, director. Like, maybe they never had a chance, they never had film equipment, like, maybe they were never really get behind a camera or whatever. Like, there's all kinds of pursuits that people could go down that would be more suited to their specific person, that they never will, because we have this bullshit idea that you need to go do some remedial, mindless, tedious work because it will make some asshole that much richer. It'll give you enough money to get some food and maybe pay your rent, but I mean, you're essentially wasting your life for 40 plus hours a week doing that. Like, why? What is that contributing to the whole? I would argue nothing.
No, I agree. There's a lot of jobs that don't contribute to society, and there's no reason for them.
There's two things going on there. Number one, Doc, you're saying you agree with UBI in that fry cooks need to be replaced by robots. And all these people that can no longer do that job have to be paid to do something so that they can live. And number one, again, because I'm channeling Joe Biden right now, I don't think the issue is people doing menial jobs. I think all the stuff that you guys use in the United States, it gets made somewhere else now. Globalism says that they will pick a pear in Argentina, ship it to the Philippines for packing, and then ship it to the United States, because that's cheaper than having a pear grown in the United States and packed in the United States and then shipped 5 yards down the road for some reason. And that makes no sense to me. Like, a capitalist system, I don't disagree with, but it's backwards, some of the stuff that we're doing right now, which is one of the reasons why I agree with the carbon tax.
The reason that happens, it keeps profit margins high.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people can't make just a fair fair profit every year as a business owner. Once they go public, they have shareholders to account to, and those shareholders are constantly swapping in and out. So if someone buys in at a certain amount of money, they want to see a 10% return the next year. So the company itself has to physically somehow make more money than it did last year. And the way it does that, because it's literally not sustainable, is to outsource, lay off people, not hire Americans, and get as much cheap labor and production as you can, so that you can get that profit and sell to the next asshole who's going to do the same thing. And that's been the race to the bottom we've had for at least since the Clinton administration, arguably since Reagan.
If everything the Americans use, same with us, was created, processed from raw materials to the finished product in the United States, the average wage in the US would be somewhere between $80,000 to $100,000